Hey, everybody, this is Jeremy T. from J and D Reptiles and Reptile Talk, and you're listening to Herp Herp Hooray.
It says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You are about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with Herp Herp Hooray's featured Breeder of the Week. Here's your host, Jason Rossi.
We had all the What's Up World? Welcome back to H3. I'm your host, Jason Rossi. We're streaming on RossiReptiles.com, and as always, we're bringing you the best and brightest from the reptile community. My guest this week is no different. He's a reptile breeder, and some of you may know he's also a trumpeter. Jeremy Turgeon from J and D Reptiles is this week's special guest. Jeremy, welcome to Herp Herp Hooray.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, man. So, Hurricane Sandy just came through our neck of the woods. How'd you fare?
We actually fared pretty well. The major part missed us by about 20 miles or so. We just got a lot of wind and a decent amount of rain, but nothing too crazy, thank God.
Yeah, right, man. I know a buddy of mine out there in Long Island, and that's not pretty right now, you know?
Yeah. I've recently been getting in contact with some friends of mine in Manhattan and along the Jersey shoreline, and it doesn't sound good over on that side.
Now, did you get hit last year? Because I know that's when we got hit. Was another storm came through.
Yeah, with that October snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got hit with that. We had no power for 7 days. So that was interesting. I had to split up my collection into 3 different locations, and I was trekking along through the city to go check up at each location to make sure everything was doing well until we could get a generator in, because we didn't know that the storm was going to be that bad, and I didn't have a generator for the room. And as soon as all that happened, everybody was buying generators, so it took me days before I could finally get one in and bring the collection back. So that was quite the experience, and I was bracing myself with Sandy when we thought that we were really going to get hit. I was bracing the generator and just trying to mentally brace myself for what was potentially going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Last year, I think it was probably the same storm we got hit, and it knocked out power, flooded everything around out here. You know, some people had no power for a month out here, so it was pretty bad, and kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and learned my lesson from that. And I just wanted to make sure my family was able to survive something like that again. You know, it's something you want to be ready for.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So let's get into the snakes. So, all right. Where do you see the market? What do you see that doing?
I think the market, at least from what I've seen from the shows that I've been doing on the Upper East Coast in New York, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, I think the market's in a slow and treacherous shift, and I think it's been being seen in other places. I spoke to some vendors who were at Tinley who kind of noticed it as well. And we already know everybody's got ball pythons. You know, pretty much everybody breeds ball pythons. And it seems like everybody's got the same stuff on their tables. I did a show out in Braintree, Massachusetts. It's a small expo. So there were some vendors there who are pretty well known in the local area, and then there were some just kind of like hobby guys who maybe produced 2 or 3 clutches and just needed to sell off some babies. And they had identical offspring pretty much. You know, and their prices were right around the same, so sales were very hard to come by. You know, we actually sold nothing at the show, and I had more than just ball pythons there, but you know, some of the stuff that I have were higher end colubrids, and a lot of those pricier snakes don't sell at the smaller shows. But I've noticed this trend around the market after talking with different breeders and hearing about different experiences at expos. that ball pythons have become oversaturated, and they've always been the big thing, but now it seems like big breeders are competing with I don't want to seem like a jerk, but the nobodies, and I don't mean that to anyone in particular, but the breeders who are just maybe producing 2 or 3 clutches and doing it as a hobby are competing with people like BHB and Nerd and some of the larger breeders for the same clientele. And obviously the name brand breeders have better sales because they're more well known, when it comes to quality and stuff. But they're still fighting for the same market. And when you have, from what I hear, the Tinley NARBC was a show that was like 90% ball pythons. What do you have that somebody else doesn't that's going to make it sell? So I've seen the ball python sales kind of drop from certain breeders, not everybody, but blood python sales, carpet python sales, and Asian rat snake sales have kind of bounced up. So that's kind of where I see the market might be going. And I think the blood python trend has been growing recently pretty strongly. I think a lot of breeders would say the same. There's a lot of new mutations that are coming out, and I think once they start to shed that reputation of being these crazy, vicious snakes, more people will start to get into them, and that'll really make the industry boom. I've also noticed even some retic sales that have bounced up. A lot of the super dwarf stuff is becoming more popular. It's a little more easy to manage than others. So I've just been really paying attention to some of these weird shifts. And some people disagree with me 100%, and they say that ball pythons are still king, and they always will be. So I guess there's room for speculation, but that's what I've seen over probably the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, I've only been doing it 4 years, and just from attending shows, going to shows around here, that's what it seems like. Everybody has them, so it's always been in the back of my mind, and you just wonder, and I'm just attributing it to I'm just a rookie basically still, so I have to pay my dues in order to make it. So I don't know, it's definitely, I definitely think about it a lot, believe me.
Yeah, and it's definitely when I was at that expo in Braintree, Mass. At first I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just not many people have money. We all know the economy is not what it used to be, so sales are kind of low in general in that sense. But I was quick to retract that as I watched some people drop some decent sums of cash in the thousands on boa morphs and locality boas, and I mean decent sums of money. I also watched, I think the kid was 14 or 15 years old, drop about $2,000 on a group of piebalds that were just babies, and I was like, wow. I wonder, I had to think to myself, I wonder what he's doing with the piebald gene at such a young age. But you also see that the prices on some mutations are dropping like rocks. If you look at, I saw a spinner ball python today for $200 shipped, and I was like, are you kidding me? That's, it's still a double gene animal. You've got to be kidding me. You see piebalds starting to come down, males around $450 or so. As people, I don't know if it's people just thinking that the value's dropping or if they just need to make a quick buck for whatever sale. But it's kind of disheartening to a lot of people, especially to some newer people who, they get a project, let's say they buy a pair of het pieds. They bought a pair of het pieds 2 years ago when pieds were selling for $1,000 and up. And, they're finally ready to breed them, and they think, okay, I can make some decent money, maybe save up a little money for college or get a car or whatever it is they were going to do, or just have some extra spending money. And now that hope has literally been cut in half in some respects, where they're not seeing that return. And, again, they've got to compete with everybody else who's got, pieds on their table or spinners on their table. I sold a spinner male this year for over $500, and that's a price that people haven't seen in a long time, and that was through an internet sale, or through Kingsnake. So people will still pay the prices. So it's kind of shocking to me that the prices are dropping so fast. So I think that is a big problem with the shift in the market too, is that people are just seeing there's a high amount of supply and demand isn't where it used to be for the most part.
They don't want to put the legwork in, do the hard work.
Yeah.
Rather off them for cheap.
Right. And I mean it's not everybody. I've certainly had to drop some prices of snakes to get them to move. But you'll never see me with a spinner on my table, whether it male or female, for $200 shipped. I'll never post an ad like that. To me, that's just way too low. And I think with the mutations of ball pythons, I mean, if you really look at it, the first mutations came out in, 94, around that, maybe a little earlier. So it's really only like 20 years that we've been working with mutations, and we're still seeing all these new ones come out. And, look at genes like leopard and fader that have come through with line breeding of mutations that have been around for so many years. We still know so little about the genetics of ball pythons and how they're going to react that I just don't understand why they're being sold for so cheap. I mean, a few years of line breeding lemon pastels, and Kevin was able to do fader stuff, and it's proven itself to be a dominant possible codon. Or the leopard thing with the pied, why are piebalds dropping? I mean, I understand why they're dropping because they've been around for so long, but again, we know so little about the gene complexities. To me, I think they should be holding their value a lot stronger.
They should be going up every year.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand when, you start producing, pinstripe and spiders. They've been around for so many years. Everybody's producing them. So I can see why their prices would drop. But I also don't think it's fair that bee prices drop so fast and lemon blast prices have dropped so fast. They're still double gene animals, and I understand that, they're becoming more common for people to produce, but that's only because the prices of the single genes are dropping so much. So now every 12-year-old can produce a lemon blast. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So what impact do you think this is going to have across the U.S.?
I mean, I definitely don't think that ball pythons are going to fall off the market. I think that's impossible because from the husbandry standpoint, they're a very easy snake to maintain. From the genetic standpoint, there's so many different combos that look cool. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of people who breed ball pythons who either sell out or reduce collections considerably, or just kind of funnel into what they consider to be better projects, things that aren't really worked with and that will sell at a better price and such, so that they can sustain themselves. You have to think, I always say to my crew and to people that I talk to, I'm not in the reptile industry for money. I could keep every normal ball python I produce and be happy with it, but I do recognize that I operate a business, so I need to make some sort of money to be able to sustain myself as a business. Whether I make a profit that I can live on or not, that's God's will there. But as long as I can make the money I need to cover overhead without having it come from out of pocket, then I'm okay with that. For me, that's chump change compared to what some bigger breeders have to pay to keep their entire facilities up and running. So I think that you may see some of the larger breeders kind of slim down in their collections and maybe become a little more focused on what they're producing to make sure those sales stay consistent so that they can keep themselves going.
So how did you get your start over there at J and D Reptiles?
Basically, when I was 4, I remember going into a pet store with my mom, and I saw a fire-bellied toad. And when I was 4, that was the most amazing thing in the world. So I threw a temper tantrum until my mother let me get it. And then that's pretty much what started the fiasco that has built up to J and D Reptiles. As I got older, I was able to start researching reptiles online and what everything was all about. And it took me a while before Mom let me get snakes, so I bred green anoles and leopard geckos and stuff like that before I got into snakes. But then I got my very first snake, which was a ball python, and that was the first species of snake I ever bred. And I've been hooked ever since. And I was in and out of ball pythons for a while because when I started, there really wasn't a lot of information on the internet, and we still see that today with certain species where it's really hard to find certain information. So unless you really knew somebody who had snakes that you could call or send a letter to or attempt to email, you really weren't going to get any kind of info. So when it came to ball pythons, we all know that they can be picky and finicky feeders, and they go off feed for long periods of time. So it was a struggle for me, and I would easily get frustrated with it. So I was in and out of ball pythons, and then I was reintroduced to them by a friend who was moving because of a family issue, and just gave me some ball pythons. And that kind of reinitiated my love for them. And since then, I've kind of gotten larger into it. When I was a freshman in high school, that's when I officially started J and D Reptiles as a business, and ran it all through high school between work and becoming a professional musician and all that other fun stuff. And it's been able to grow to what it is today, to the following that we have today, and the size of the collection that we do, which is, I'm pretty sure, breaching 100 adult animals. If not, it's pretty close to doing so.
Yeah, I have to say you look pretty young in some of your older videos with your hat backwards there.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
a lot of people. I was talking to somebody on Facebook the other day who was asking me how I got my start in reptiles, and they're anticipating me to go on this long, drawn-out life story, and I'm telling them everything, and they're waiting for more. Like, this guy was literally like, and what else? And I'm like, there is nothing else. I'm getting ready to go to college. I just turned 20 last month. And he was like, are you serious? You're only 20? Yes.
Yeah, so what are you going back to school for? I saw that.
Yeah, I'm going in the spring. I'm going to Berklee College of Music as a music performance and music education major.
Nice, man. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very excited. Not excited about the debt I'll be going into for loans, but excited about getting the education.
That'll keep you warm at night.
What's that?
That'll keep you warm at night.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you moved into a new facility recently, correct?
Well, we were trying to. It didn't exactly happen the way we wanted to, and I'll actually be covering this in an upcoming video later this week, hopefully.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Try dropping off and... Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
All right, can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to have to hit record again. I guess it stopped it automatically.
Ah, okay.
So we'll just go back into, you're going to make a video about it this week?
Yep.
Okay. What the frick? Hold on one second.
Yep, no problem.
Hopefully I don't have to start a new conference again. It'd be annoying. All right, let's see here. It's not letting me record. Can you call right back in? I'll hang up and call right back in and set it up. I should be in there like in 1 minute.
Okay, all right, cool.
Oh, sorry, man.
No problem.
All right, thanks. Bye.
All right, yeah, bye-bye. The racks moved in and everything, and things were going great, and then we had a little money flow issue that stopped us from getting some of the supplies for a decent portion of the racks that we had gotten in. So we were unable to get the second location up and running for this season. We tried to get stuff going as quick as possible, but it got really close to time for the breeding season, and the last thing you want to do is start moving breeder animals when it's almost time to breed, because then they kind of freak out. They got to adjust and everything. They got to go through a quarantine period, and it would have set us back by quite some time. So we opted to move some of the racks from the second location to my house, which is the first location, and kind of give it a facelift. So we got all the snakes transferred over to those cages and gave them a couple weeks to settle themselves in, and it was just in time so that we could get them up and feeding while they're in their new enclosures, and then get ready for the breeding season. And I actually just started pairing some ball pythons today, and they've been breeding without a problem. So luckily we hit the window just in time to make sure that everything was comfortable and get everything settled for the next season. So hopefully we can get the second location up in a year or so, But nothing really is going to happen now because we're into the breeding season, so you don't want to stress anything out and move it around. But hopefully I'll have a video up on that in the next week, hopefully by the end of this week, if not beginning of next week, because I've had a lot of people asking me about it. What's going on with the other location, this, that, and the other thing. The second location is still being used, however, for some gecko projects and rodent breeding. So there's still stuff that is going on over there. As far as snakes, not so much.
So how are you liking those vision racks?
I think the vision racks are great, man. I haven't really noticed too much of a problem with them. The only thing that I'm not too fond of is trying to clean them. If they get dusty, they're kind of they look like a Lego almost. The shells look like little Lego pieces. So you get some nooks and crannies that will be hard to when it comes time to clean to make them look nice. But I guess one of the nice things about that is this: if you take the snakes out and put them in a holding tub or whatever, you can just take the unit outside and hose it right off because it's durable plastic and they're on casters, so they're easy to move and they don't weigh that much. The only other thing that I have to say I'm not too fond of is using heat cable rather than heat tape. I've used heat cable before, and I really don't have a problem with it. I'm just not too fond of it. Maybe that's just me stuck in my old ways of heat tape. But other than that, I think they're great racks. I think they're pretty well put together, and they slide in a lot easier than some other melamine racks that I built years ago that have sticking tubs and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I keep looking at those things because they look pretty economical, and I have a lot of Sterlite 32s and 15, yep. So it'd be a perfect fit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely a step up. They're good racks. They're a decent price. Obviously, everybody would love to upgrade to Freedom Breeder or ARS cages, and for most of us, that's just undoable or not doable for us that don't want to spend $30,000 on cages. So I definitely think that Visions are a good middle ground rack system for sure.
All right, yeah, I was checking out your videos, and I love that Super Phantom girl. So she's a hottie. Oh yeah, she's nice and big this year. She's around 2,100 grams. So we're gonna start throwing some different males to her. I might have some secret things going on with her. I don't know. I've got to talk to a couple people, and maybe there'll be some special things in the spring and summer when she lays her eggs and we get babies from that. But I'm not really deciphering what's going on there just yet. There goes the next question there. So we'll go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
You got your triple gene male. What you got planned for him?
That Spinner Blast male. He's pretty much going to go to a lot of things. Mostly because as we spoke on a little earlier, with the market kind of shifting and prices dropping, one of the things that are always staple sales are Pastel, Pin, and Spider. Because everybody wants to make the bumblebees and lemon blasts and stuff. So we're moving him through a lot of females, and I'm kind of throwing him and my enchi hepide male through pretty much the same female. So I really can't lose because enchi's really hot right now in the market as far as ball pythons are concerned. Especially females, they're almost never offered for sale. So I'm kind of running whatever female gets the Spinner Blast is also getting enchi. So not to do any dual paternity or anything, but just to cover all the bases. Either hit the basic stuff or hit some enchi combos that'll either end up being holdbacks or we'll sell them off because they do bring in a decent amount of money for the ball python world, especially just the single gene enchi alone. Still brings in some decent money. And again, like I said, I don't do this for the money, but it's definitely an aspect that you need to look at as a business.
You also have the Pastel enchi. Is that a male also?
That's a female. That is a female. She's going to the Spinner Blast, and she's also going to a Champagne.
Yeah, I love the enchi champagnes. That was one of my next questions. I saw you had the champagne. Is that like your goal? You want to do the enchi champs, or?
It's not really
in mind.
It's not. Yeah, it's not really a goal to do it. I mean, they look amazing. Don't get me wrong. They do look amazing. I really want to see. What I really want to see is with the enchi champagne stuff. I want to see if that pattern will still hold true with the champagne combos. Like with Pastel champagne, it's pretty much a white snake. Will you still see that weird pattern on top of the white snake if you throw enchi in there? So that's
like
that's
gold,
kind of something
like
I'm
gold.
Yeah. Right. So that's kind of what I'm going for in terms of that. So I figure with that Pastel enchi girl, if she lands with the champagne, then it's a win-win. It's another enchi combo, and it's champagne, which still moves pretty well and looks awesome. And if she hits the spinner blast, then you get some, quad morphs that are just as nice.
Awesome, and you also got the Lori ball there from BHB.
Yep, the Lori ball. He's a special one. I don't know what our plans are for him. The market when it comes to the Lori thing is pretty much non-existent. When we got the Lori, we actually picked up 2 males from Brian because they were the only 2 males that he had offered for sale. So I was talking to some of my crew members, and we were like, well, let's just get them both, and just run it through a bunch of females, and produce a bunch of Lori things. And one of them ate way, way better than the other. They both ate great, but one was just pounding food. So we focused on that guy, getting that guy up to breed. And then Brian started posting some of the Lori. He did the pinstripe Lori, and he had that posted for sale. And he had some other Lori, just single gene Loris that he posted up. And I talked to him, and a lot of people look to them as the het-ready xanthics. They're just a really weird het-ready xanthic. I don't think that to be true because I think the Super Lori is kind of like a weird, almost super spot nose kind of thing. I remember when I went to Brian's place a couple of years ago, I saw a Super Lori and I was blown away. It was like this bluish gray background color with this ridiculous like cheetah Powerball pattern. I was amazed. So I thought this was going to be huge, and surprisingly, there's not a lot of interest in it because I think it might be because of the price. Because, like I said, people think it's just het-ready xanthic, so they're like, why am I going to spend $400 or $500 more on a Lori ball when I could spend $150 on a het-ready xanthic and do what they think will be the same thing. So I don't know. I think there's some cool things that could be in store for it. I don't think right now it's a wise choice to be throwing it to a lot of different things, but he's definitely going to be in the mix very, very soon, and we're going to show some stability with the Lori gene, especially with the Super Lori, because I think that'll get people a little more interested in it.
Yeah, it's got me interested for sure.
Yeah.
So you also working with the Cinnamon Project. What avenue are you taking with that, Pied?
No, I'm not doing the Pied thing with the cinnamon stuff. I don't think that's the right direction to take. I think with the cinnamon stuff, it's lost a lot of value. It really has. I remember when I got my original male in 2009. I got him for a really good price from a friend of mine, and then I got my male pewter fader when I brought him to a lemon pastel fader. And I was like, okay, this is what I want, so now I'm going to move the cinnamon because I have the pewter. And I was thinking, okay, I can get him like $400 or so, nothing too crazy. And I had him at a show, marked at that price, and I was walking around, and I saw like every other table had an adult male cinnamon ball python, and they were going for like $180 a piece. And I was like, wow. I was blown away by adults going at that price. I think that was almost what first had woken me up to the market shift and just seeing all the major price drops. So I think the Cinnamon Project is good if you're throwing it into something multi-gene. If you're just going to end up with straight cinnamons, I don't really know how stable that would be because they're kind of falling down in line with Spider and Tin and Pastel, where the prices are really, really low. So I think with the Cinnamon Avenue, I'm probably looking at like super pastel cinnamon stuff, or I don't know, pewter blast, stuff like that. I don't know, just multi-gene cinnamon stuff, because the pewter color looks really cool, and like I said, our pewter's a pewter fader, so it's got some some extra things going on with it with that fader gene. So who knows? Maybe that'll throw in an extra avenue. And we kept back his sister sibling, which is just a straight cinnamon, but it's also a cinnamon fader. So there's some interesting things going on with that. The fader gene is another one of those genes of controversy for sure. But hopefully with the right advertising that'll be fixed.
So how was your season for 2012?
Our 2012 season was pretty decent. We hit a lot of good stuff. We pretty much overloaded on phantom stuff this year. A lot of phantom stuff. Definitely some cool things other than phantom. We did yellow belly granite het pies. Those came out looking pretty smoking. To the point where I don't even think I just put one up for sale, and it sold pretty much the day after I put it up. The other one I didn't even post for sale. Somebody came by and I was like, I want it, and I was like, okay, that's fine. So that was pretty cool. I definitely like the look of those. Let's see, what else did we do? I produced some spinner blast and lemon blast stuff. To me, those animals are classic. You can't really beat those, so I was happy producing those. And then, like I said, we did a lot of the phantom stuff. We produced some single gene phantoms, some pastel phantoms, which look absolutely amazing, and some karmas, which is phantom lesser. We hashed out some lessers and butters along with that as well. Probably the one of the most exciting things was producing the Karma 2.0, which is the phantom butter. That was probably one of the coolest things, especially since it was a world's first. So we got credited with that, which for me was great because, like I said earlier, at ball pythons, I've been in and out of them for so long, so it was kind of cool to be able to say, okay, I might not have produced a lot of world's firsts, but I have one on there, so a little bit of recognition. But it's like, what is it, like the 1,000th way to make a white snake? So it wasn't the most impressive thing at all, but it was still cool to do nevertheless. And as it's growing, alongside with the regular Karma that we've produced, I've noticed some pretty decent differences, which I know I highlighted in a short video, and I'm going to do it again as they've started to shed and get a little older. I've noticed that the Karma 2.0 is a few shades whiter than the regular Karma, and the ones I'm using for comparison have all shed the same amount of times. They've all eaten the same amount of time, so there's no real variation there. And also the Karma 2.0 has this really faint yellow stripe that goes down its back that I don't see in the baby Karma at all. So it's definitely pretty interesting to see the subtle differences that are kind of popping out between the two.
Well, sounds like you had an awesome season over there at J and D Reptiles.
Yeah, it's definitely been pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Our production was good. We did some cool colubrid things this year too. We hatched out a lavender blizzard corn snake, which there aren't really many of those out there. I don't even think there's more than 10 or so out there after speaking with some corn snake breeders. And again, it's another white snake. So we've got quite a few white snakes here. But I've noticed as it's getting older, it's starting to get this hue of lavender. And the only way I could tell it apart from the other blizzards in the clutch was if you look at a baby blizzard corn, you can see the little square saddles that go down the back. And with this snake, it was just solid white. You could not see any saddles whatsoever. Even if, no matter how many different light shades you put it next to, or even under black light, it was really hard to see. So it was like non-existent. And now it's starting to get this purpley overtone to it. I don't even know if I want to sell it. It's a cool snake, and I hope it gets more purple as it gets older, because I think that would be awesome.
So what is the next gene you're adding over there at J and D Reptiles?
Man, that's difficult to say. As far as ball pythons are concerned, I'm pretty much done growing the ball python collection, mainly because, like I said, what I feel that the market is doing is going through that change. So I want to focus on a couple other projects that I've had my eyes on. I think I really want to get into the desert ghost stuff, not the co-dom desert or dominant desert or whatever that has females that can't lay Bible clutches, but the desert ghost, the actual recessive desert ghost gene. I really want to get into that because there's like nobody that works with that except maybe one or two other people. So I think that's a really, really cool gene. And then the regular ghost gene, which everybody knows, I think it is kind of showing itself pretty well. I know there was, I think it was hypo hidden gene Loma, and I saw hypo enchis looked really cool. A lot of different hypo combos kind of were punching me in the face this year, like, why don't you have this gene? So those would probably be the two genes that I would want to add in the collection, some recessives, because they usually hold their value a little bit better in the long term because there's that het step in between. And then I have some other things. I've got some het clown stuff that I'm going to try and prove out and get some clown stuff going on as well. But I've pretty much hit the cap for ball pythons for right now, and I'm probably going to be selling off some random things after the 2013 season to make some room for, like I said, some of those other projects, like some of those Asian rat snakes and rare colubrids that you don't really see, so that we can kind of delve into that side because, like I said, it's pretty well untouched for some of the species I'm looking into.
Yeah, so what are some of the other species you're messing with over there?
Well, mostly we do the ball pythons. Got some carpet python things going on, which we're kind of going to be slowing down on while I'm gone for college because my crew's kind of apprehensive with Morelia species because they're so inquisitive. They get kind of nervous when there's a giant 7-foot snake staring them in the face just to check out who they are. So I don't think we'll be doing too much as far as carpet pythons go in the next few years, but that'll definitely change. Colubrid things, definitely we'll hit the staples, the corn snakes. We'll be doing some work with North Mexican pine snakes or Depii Johnny. Those guys are pretty cool. Arizona mountain king snakes, the hypo stuff, that stuff is awesome. I love the pyromelena species. Those are just great. And hognose, definitely doing some albino stuff. Nothing too crazy. But albino stuff, it seems to be holding their value well, and they just look awesome. I mean, the albino hognoses, they're classic, so I really, really like those. So working more with those, and then I want to start delving into rhino rat snakes, mandarin rat snakes, and some of the bamboo species, the Porphyracia coxi and Porphyracia laticinctus, I think it is. I want to kind of touch in those a little bit. Those are really cool species of snakes, and you just really don't see the bamboo rat snakes worked with that much. And then I've got that Chinese twin-spotted rat snake that I did a little phone video on, I think about two weeks ago or so. That's pretty cool. I can't find a female for that guy to save my life. So when I finally do get my hands on one, that'll definitely be a project I work on because they're so hard to find.
I heard you mention one show you vend, but do you vend any others?
Yeah, we usually try and hit the White Plains Reptile Expo in New York. We do the Manchester show in New Hampshire, the Braintree show in Mass. We're trying to venture out. I did a show in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. I was supposed to do Long Island, but something came up and I wasn't able to do that. I was also supposed to do Tinley. But the money I was going to use at Tinley I had to put towards tuition deposits for school, so that didn't work out. But I think, especially while I'm gone and my crew kind of takes over, we're not going to vanish completely from shows, but we're definitely going to be sticking to our staples, which would be the Braintree show here in Mass, the Manchester, New Hampshire show, and the White Plains, New York show. Mostly for the sake of travel expenses. Because one of the things I told my crew is if the money doesn't happen to be in the bank for whatever reason, it's going to come out of your pocket. So, if the money's not there, it's not going to happen. So we'll definitely be doing those two shows consistently, and the White Plains show happens every few months. And then the Massachusetts show and the New Hampshire show happen twice a year. So we'll definitely be around. And then once I'm out of college, our presence will be quite a bit greater once I've gotten myself situated back in my hometown. And then we can go from there for sure. But we won't be out for the count in any way.
Yeah, I actually introduced myself to you at a White Plains show last year. You're at BHB's table, and
yep.
He was talking to some guy about a lavender female, and I was there with my beautiful wife. I'm not sure if you remember, but
yeah, I do.
Yeah, he seemed like a pretty cool dude.
So what White Plains shows is always cool. I loved working at Brian's table. I'll never forget the time he asked me one day. I just happened to be walking by, and he called me over. He was like, "Can you do me a favor?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Can you just watch this side of my table? I need to go use the bathroom." And an hour later, he comes back. I'm like, "What the hell happened?" He was like, "Dude, I didn't even make it to the bathroom. I got swamped by people." I was like, "Are you serious?" So I ended up staying at his table for like 3 hours before he was finally able to get back. Because he left like right when the show got swamped. So people see Brian Barczyk walking around, and they're like, must get photos, must get autograph, and all this stuff. So he got bombarded with people just trying to go pee. So I felt bad for the guy, but I was stuck watching like 2 or 3 tables worth of stuff, so he could go use the bathroom.
You got to wait in line to talk to Brian.
Yeah, you do. That's why whenever I do White Plains, I try and get there early. So I can get in at some time to talk to him, but even vendors swarm him right when setup's going on. I remember we did when I did Reptile Talk with Steve Tillis. We were talking with Josh Roberts, who runs the ball python room down there, and he was like, when it comes time to set up, you can never see Brian because he's getting pulled away by different vendors. So setup's usually up to whoever goes with him to the show. So he can be elusive, because he's always surrounded by people. It's like that one really popular person in school who's always surrounded by a group of people.
Yeah, you started your own radio show with Steve Tillis, Reptile Talk. That's awesome, man. More, like Brian told me, more the merrier. When I told him about I was going to start this show and wanted him on, and he was like, yeah, man, have at it. So it's kind of cool. And glad you guys are out here, exposing the positive side of reptiles and letting the community, and even not the reptile community, get informed on how we are.
Yeah, definitely. When Steve and I were kind of talking about it, I don't even remember how it started, because my mind does a million things at once. But Steve and I both have a decent following of younger herp keepers and younger kids who are interested in reptiles and trying to get their parents to say yes, to get them to own a snake or whatever. And a lot of the radio shows that you would hear from Blog Talk or other random podcasts weren't really focused on kids. They were talking to other breeders and everything, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. Everybody wants to hear from breeders and everything and get some inside info. But Steve and I were talking about it one day, and we're like, we should set something up. And it's ironic because that was how we started out. That was our goal. And unfortunately, the way Blog Talk works, we couldn't get a good time because Steve's in college, and I'm going to be headed off to college, and my day schedule is crazy. So we can't do the show until 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a lot of the kids we were trying to reach have to wait until the next day to listen to it, which is kind of a bummer. But we still have a lot of fun, and we have some people call in all the time. It's a great experience, but that was what the original goal was when we set out to do it, was to get into those the younger clique of reptile keepers and those who just have random questions that just don't get answered for whatever reason. Breeders being too busy, or they get brushed off for whatever reason. And Steve and I have had firsthand experience with that. We talked about that the first one or two episodes where we're trying to get ourselves known, and breeders just brush us off. I remember it took me years before I finally found a guy who took me seriously, and that was about, 10 years ago or so, and I'm still great friends with the guy. And everybody needs that one person, and Steve and I have kind of become, I don't want to say that the absolute face for the younger generation, but we've become pretty prominent for the younger generation, as well as the not-so-young generation, too.
All right, so we're both in this fight together. What's your take on the war on reptile owners?
Oh, man, the war on reptile owners. It's
I just came up with that one today.
Nice. It's I think it's a load of crap, pretty much like everybody else does. We all know the funding, the background funding that happens with media, propaganda, and all that stuff that just fuels the government to make these outlandish choices and decisions, and it really hurts the industry, really hurts the hobby. That's why one of my biggest things when I started J and D Reptiles, before I started it, I used to travel around to different schools and stuff. My mother's a teacher's aide, so I would go to her school and talk to kids about reptiles and stuff. And when I started J and D Reptiles, that was one of the biggest things that we advertised was education, because that's the most important thing with reptiles. It's a hobby that even today is still considered taboo by many, because they just don't understand. Getting into this topic is like one of the few things that can really set my anger off, because I'm a pretty relaxed guy when it comes to just about everything. But if you start spewing the ignorance in my face, you're going to get a red-faced, angry white guy yelling at you. I get pretty heated over it because I got into an argument about it probably 2 months ago with a guy I went to school with, who was talking about Animal Planet. And when we all know when Steve Irwin was alive, Animal Planet used to be the station to watch when it came to exotics. And after his untimely passing, God rest his soul, we all saw the decline, and now we've got like killer pythons and these vicious aliens and all this stuff going on. And he was like, well, Animal Planet has all these educated people talking about reptiles and blah, 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 so they must know everything. And I'm like, dude, you got it so wrong. That's the reason why our industry is under siege by the government. That's one of the biggest reasons. People watch Animal Planet. People watch the Discovery Channel, Nat Geo Wild, all those things, and that's what subliminally feeds fear into the general public. If I had a nickel for every time somebody came to an educational show I did and touched our 12-foot Burmese python and was like, wow, I thought it would kill me, I would be a freaking millionaire. Because we all know the big snakes are some of the most notorious for getting the bad reputation for reptiles. So as far as the war against reptile owners, I think it's a bunch of propaganda crap, and really the only thing that us in the grassroots level can do is just educate the public and make sure that the people who are going around educating are saying the right information. I did a huge public event, probably the largest one I've ever did. We saw about 10,000 kids over the course of maybe, I want to say 6 hours, and it was this giant public back-to-school kind of rally in the city, and we were asked to go do that, which was great. But I had some friends of mine from my high school come help me out because my crew was out. They were busy that day. And I gave them, some information for the general questions that get asked. I said, if you don't know anything, for whatever reason, if you don't know an answer to a question, I said, just come find me. I'm going to be right around the table. And some guy came up to me and was talking about, your people are giving out wrong information. So I asked him, I was like, okay, what did they tell you? And the guy was like, well, they said that your male Burmese python, who's already 12 feet, is only going to get another 4 or 5 foot. And I was like, that's pretty much right. You know, you really don't see a male Burmese python exceeding 15 foot, you know, unless he's really old. And he proceeded to tell me the story about how he had this 22-foot plus male Burmese python, and it was only like 5 years old. And I was like, oh, I said, okay, if that's your thing, you know. I politely disagreed with him, and he just continued to go off, and he was telling other people around my table that they could get, you know, 35 feet long. And I'm over here like, what is this guy doing, talking about mythical retics, you know, around my table. So I had to have him escorted away from my table because he was freaking people out, you know. And I was just like, that's what hurts us. You know, I mean, the guy could have very well had a 22-foot berm, but I'm pretty sure it would have been female. If it was male, it would have been pretty old or fed quite a bit to get to that size. So, you know, stuff like that kind of gets me on edge too, because it's like, man, you just didn't do enough research, or somebody gave you the wrong information, and it makes everybody else look bad if uneducated people are trying to educate people.
That's a good answer, man. People just need to turn off the TV. It is definitely mind control, and my grandfather used to say it rots your brain, and I definitely see what he means now.
Yeah, it's not cool, man. I mean, we all like the idea of going to an exotic place and seeing cool wildlife and everything, and that's absolutely fantastic. You know, I would love nothing more than to spend my life traveling the globe looking for exotic reptiles and mammals and birds and all that other fun stuff. But, you know, one of the things that people seem to forget is that what you see on TV isn't everything that's going on. You know, there's the whole behind-the-scenes aspect, you know, for whatever it is. And unless you actually see that, you don't know the whole truth. You know, you're only seeing what was able to be put online or on the TV. You know, for every hour, or let's say for every half hour of TV footage, there's probably 4 hours of film. So what happened in another 3.5 hours? You don't know. But you're going to be quick to judge on something by watching that half an hour, you know, that was interrupted by about 12 minutes of commercials. So, you know, what is there to really gain from that? There's not that much. You know, so that's one of the biggest things that I would definitely agree with you there. Just shut off the TV and stop letting your mind be controlled. You know, go on YouTube. You can find better information there.
Turn off your TV and turn on your YouTube. So you have a pretty big YouTube following. For the people that don't know your channel, what is that?
Yeah, we have a great following. It's youtube.com/J and D Reptiles. And we used to do videos, like 3 or 4 videos every week. And as I've gotten busier, that's definitely not the case anymore. We maybe do like 2 or 3 videos a month, which is kind of saddening to some people who have been following us for so long. But to the newer people, they've got a few years worth of videos to backtrack on. And it was funny. I was on my YouTube account about a month ago, and I was just like replaying some of the really old videos from like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was just like, wow, it's amazing how much I've grown as a keeper and a breeder, and just in general as someone who keeps reptiles. You know, and it's still funny because that's not even the beginning. That was kind of like the middle, and there was so many things that I never touched on in some of those older videos. And I'm like, man, why didn't I talk about this, or why didn't I talk about that? And I guess I was very one-minded when it came to what I was going to talk about on that video. And I know our YouTube channel has grown tremendously. Literally every day I get probably like at least 5 emails, which, I mean, to some people doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 emails saying that somebody subscribed to us. You know, God forbid there's a point where I don't get to my email very often. You know, I'll have 20, 30 plus comments in like less than a week that I've got to go back and check on. I use my social media, especially YouTube, as one of my major connections to get in touch with people, because when it comes to phone calls, I'm absolutely terrible. Phone calls and me are not good at all, and it's mostly because I live on my phone for my other my other aspects of life with the stuff that I do for my church and music. So the reptile calls, sometimes they're usually on another phone that I'm not around. So my phone call list is ridiculous. And I even tell people in my business's phone voicemail, I'm like, if you need to get in contact with me, send me an email or something, because that comes to my other phone so I can get it faster. And I talk about that on YouTube all the time. So I use YouTube as well as Facebook and everything as my main source of communication for people. And it's actually really positive. A lot of people don't quite see how I'm able to keep up with business that way. And people just kind of sort of figure it out. Okay, he's not replying to my call, I'll send him an email, or I'll hit him up on Facebook or something. And because that's where so much of my time is spent for everything else that I do, I'm able to get back to people quicker. And not many other people can do that because of their busy schedules for whatever it is they're doing. So I was talking to somebody the other day who was like, man, I can't believe you reply to everybody on Facebook or you reply to everybody on YouTube. And, I tell them, I said, I don't get to everybody. I said, but I get to as many people as I can because I think it's important. What if I was great at phone calls, but I sucked at YouTube comments or whatever, and somebody asked me a YouTube or in a YouTube comment, somebody asked me a question, I want to get my first snake, what do you think it should be? And I'm the only person they asked, and they never got an answer. You know what I mean? So I think that the social media is a great source of communication on the front line for everybody, and I think it's something that really needs to be paid attention to. So YouTube is just one of many places I'm on consistently for connecting with people.
Yeah, I just recently started to get into that a little bit more, trying to build up my subscriber base, and they're trickling in now because of the show. Mm-hmm. I believe they're coming on because of the show. I do a little video every week, right. A little promo. I'm trying to get the full show up there, but like you said, you get busy, other things going, so, that takes a back seat to, live animals, kids running around, soccer, basketball, wrestling, whatever it may be.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. Like I said, we used to do so many videos every week, and now we're only doing, literally a tenth of what we used to do on YouTube when it comes time to post up videos. But things get in the way, and it becomes a thing of priorities. Of course you want to touch base with everybody, but you want to keep them up to date. But for me, when it comes to keeping people up to date, I'm able to use Facebook a lot easier because I can just update it from my phone. Take a picture of something I found that was breeding and throw it on Facebook really fast. It's a lot easier than making a video and going through the whole spiel of, welcome to this, blah, 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 this is what's going on, and blah, 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 and all this stuff on a video where I can just 5-second picture, Facebook, and it's done.
Speaking of subscriptions, thanks for subscribing to my channel. Appreciate that, sir.
Not a problem at all. It's funny, I was trying to find it, and I could have sworn that I was already subscribed. And when I found it, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm not subscribed to this already. So it's bad. People message me every once in a while, like, man, you're subscribed to like nobody. And it's mostly because I don't have the time to sit at my YouTube account and just watch everybody's videos. If I had that kind of time, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Definitely through Facebook or texting, which is ironic since I'm terrible at phone calls. I might miss your phone call, but you send me a text and I'll probably get back to you in 2 seconds. But in all honesty, Facebook is definitely the easiest way to get a hold of me because I'm on it so consistently because I've got like 7 pages that I run besides my own personal page. I've got the J and D Reptiles page, which is for the business. Then I've got the Places page, which is how people find us to come take a look at the collection and pick up things for sale. Then I've got my page for music. I've got my page for some of the groups that I'm in, and the page for the Christian reptile keepers and breeders and all that stuff. Plus the 70-plus groups that I get added into like every 2 seconds. I try to keep up with as much of that as possible. So Facebook, it pretty much holds all of my attention for the most part. So that is the best way to get in touch with me, because I always get notifications on my phone, so I can just hit it up right away.
You know, I used to be like that too, and then I deleted Facebook, and I have a lot more time.
Yeah, I felt like I could have a lot more time, but it all goes back to, you know, that's where everything is for me. And it's like, I remember when we lost power with that snowstorm, I felt like so detached from the world because I couldn't access Facebook easily. You know, and by the time I got back on, I had like 500 messages and a whole bunch of stuff that was going on. But yeah, I don't know. I probably would have a lot more time to do so many other things if it wasn't for Facebook. But I'm able to weave it into my schedule, so I make it work.
Awesome, Jeremy. Well, thanks for coming on Her Per Parade. Really appreciate you taking out time out of your busy schedule.
No problem, man. I appreciate it. It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. That's going to do it for this week's episode of H3. Remember, you can listen to this episode on our website, RossiReptiles.com, or you can download us at iTunes. Her Per Parade, out.
This is Matt Minatola, and you're listening to Her Per Parade.